Dear brothers and sister, today we will discuss the full story of Musa. Please watch till the end so you don't miss any new and valuable information that we are going to discuss. Let's begin. The birth of Musa. In the ancient land of Egypt, the children of Israel, also known as the Israelites, lived under the oppressive rule of Pharaoh. The Israelites were descendants of Prophet Jacob, and had migrated to Egypt during the time of Prophet Joseph, who had risen to a high position in the Egyptian government. Over the years, their numbers grew significantly, and they became a substantial community within Egypt. However, as their population increased, so did the fear and paranoia of the ruling Pharaoh. The Pharaoh, who considered himself a god and demanded absolute loyalty and obedience, perceived the growing number of Israelites as a threat to his rule. He feared that they might ally with Egypt's enemies or rise in rebellion against his authority. To prevent this, he devised a cruel and oppressive policy. He ordered the enslavement of the Israelites and subjected them to harsh labor, hoping to weaken and control them. Despite these measures, the Israelites continued to thrive, and Pharaoh's fears only intensified. In his desperation, he resorted to a more drastic and horrific measure. He decreed that every newborn male child among the Israelites was to be killed. This edict was aimed at curbing the growth of the Israelite population and eliminating any potential threat to his throne. In this dark and tumultuous period, a woman named Jochebed, from the tribe of Levi, gave birth to a son. Jochebed and her husband Amram were devout believers and placed their trust in Allah. They knew that their newborn son's life was in grave danger due to Pharaoh's decree. Driven by their faith and the natural instinct to protect their child, they sought a way to save him. For 3 months, Jochebed managed to keep her baby hidden from the prying eyes of Pharaoh's soldiers. She nursed him and cared for him in secret, always fearful of discovery. The danger was ever present, and the risk of being caught was immense. Yet she continued to trust in Allah's protection and guidance. As the baby grew, it became increasingly difficult to conceal him. The sounds of a crying infant could easily attract attention, and the risk of being discovered grew with each passing day. In a moment of profound faith and desperation, Jochebed decided to take a drastic step to ensure her son's safety. She wove a small basket from reeds and coated it with pitch to make it waterproof. Placing her precious son inside, she set the basket afloat on the Nile River, praying fervently for his safety and trusting in Allah's plan. The gentle currents of the river carried the basket downstream, away from the immediate danger. As the basket drifted along the river, it was guided by divine intervention to a place where it would be found by someone who could protect the child. The basket eventually came to rest near the palace of Pharaoh, where it was discovered by Pharaoh's wife, Asiya. Asiya was a kind and compassionate woman who had a deep sense of empathy and mercy. When Asiya saw the baby inside the basket, her heart was filled with love and compassion. She immediately recognized that this was an Israelite child, but she was moved by the innocence and vulnerability of the baby. Despite the risk and the knowledge of her husband's decree, Asiya decided to adopt the child and raise him as her own. Asiya brought the baby to the palace and presented him to Pharaoh, pleading with him to allow her to keep the child. She argued that the baby could bring them joy and that they had no children of their own. Pharaoh, though initially reluctant, was eventually swayed by Asiya's pleas and agreed to let her keep the child. Asiya named the baby Musa, which means drawn out of the water, reflecting the miraculous way he was saved. Thus, Musa grew up in the very palace of the man who sought to destroy him, under the loving care of Asiya. Despite being raised as a prince of Egypt, Musa was destined for a greater purpose ordained by Allah. Musa's early years in the palace were marked by privilege and education. He received the best upbringing and was trained in the arts of leadership, warfare, and governance. Yet the divine plan for Musa was far greater than merely being a prince in Pharaoh's court. Allah had chosen Musa to be a prophet and a leader who would deliver the Israelites from bondage and guide them to righteousness. As Musa grew older, he began to sense a deeper connection to the Israelites and their plight. He could not ignore the suffering and oppression faced by his people, despite the comforts and luxuries of palace life. This internal conflict and growing awareness of his true identity set the stage for his future role as a prophet and liberator. The story of Musa's birth and early life is a testament to the power of faith and divine intervention. It highlights the courage and resilience of his mother, Jochebed, who trusted in Allah's protection even in the face of grave danger. It also underscores the compassion and mercy of Asiya, who defied her husband's cruel decree to save an innocent child. These acts of faith and kindness played a crucial role in the divine plan that would later unfold through Musa's prophethood and leadership. Thus, the birth of Musa marked the beginning of a remarkable journey that would lead to the liberation of the Israelites, the revelation of divine guidance, and the establishment of a covenant between Allah and his chosen people. This chapter in the life of Musa serves as an enduring lesson in faith, courage, and the power of divine providence. The call to prophethood. Musa's life in the palace was one of privilege and learning, but his heart remained restless. The Israelites' suffering weighed heavily on him, even as he enjoyed the luxuries of Pharaoh's court. Raised with the finest education, Musa excelled in the arts of leadership, warfare, and administration, preparing him unknowingly for his future role as a prophet and leader. As Musa grew into manhood, his sense of justice and empathy for the oppressed Israelites intensified. Despite his royal upbringing, he could not turn a blind eye to the cruelty and suffering inflicted upon his people. This inner conflict and his growing awareness of his true heritage set the stage for a pivotal moment in his life. One day, while walking through the city, Musa witnessed a confrontation between an Israelite and an Egyptian. The Egyptian was brutally beating the Israelite, and Musa's heart surged with righteous anger. Unable to stand by and watch his fellow Israelites suffer, Musa intervened. In the heat of the moment, Musa struck the Egyptian, who fell to the ground and died. Realizing the gravity of his actions, Musa was filled with fear and regret. He knew that Pharaoh's wrath would be swift and merciless if he were discovered. The next day, Musa saw two Israelites fighting and attempted to break up the fight. One of them, recognizing Musa, taunted him, saying, "Are you going to kill me as you killed the Egyptian yesterday?" Musa's heart sank as he realized that his deed was no longer a secret. Fearing for his life, Musa fled Egypt, leaving behind the only home he had ever known. Musa's flight took him across the harsh desert to the land of Midian, a journey marked by hunger, thirst, and solitude. Despite the hardships, Musa's faith in Allah sustained him. After days of wandering, he arrived at a well in Midian, where he encountered a group of shepherds watering their flocks. Among them were two young women struggling to draw water for their sheep. Moved by their plight, Musa approached and offered to help. He drew water for them and ensured their flock was watered before stepping aside. Grateful, the women returned home and told their father, Jethro, also known as Shuaib, about the kind stranger who had helped them. Jethro, a wise and devout man, invited Musa to his home. Over time, Musa shared his story, and Jethro, recognizing his noble character and potential, offered him shelter and hospitality. Eventually, Musa married one of Jethro's daughters, Zipporah, and settled in Midian, where he lived for several years, working as a shepherd and raising a family. While tending his flock one day near Mount Sinai, Musa's life took a dramatic turn. He noticed a strange sight: a bush engulfed in flames, yet not consumed by the fire. Intrigued, he approached the bush, only to hear a divine voice calling out to him, "O Musa, verily I am your Lord. Remove your sandals. You are in the sacred valley of Tuah." Musa, overwhelmed and in awe, obeyed. Allah then revealed to Musa his mission. He was to return to Egypt and free the Israelites from Pharaoh's tyranny. Musa was apprehensive, knowing the danger and the formidable power of Pharaoh. He expressed his concerns to Allah, fearing he would not be able to fulfill such a daunting task alone. In his infinite wisdom and mercy, Allah reassured Musa, granting him miraculous signs to demonstrate his power. Allah instructed Musa to throw down his staff, which transformed into a serpent and then returned to a staff when he picked it up. Additionally, Allah commanded Musa to place his hand inside his cloak. When he withdrew it, his hand shone with a bright, radiant light, signifying divine support. Despite these miracles, Musa felt the need for further assistance. He asked Allah to appoint his brother Harun, Aaron, as his spokesperson, explaining that Harun was more eloquent in speech. Allah accepted Musa's request and promised to support and guide both brothers in their mission. Armed with these divine signs and the assurance of Allah's support, Musa set out for Egypt with his family, determined to confront Pharaoh and deliver the message of liberation. The journey back to Egypt was fraught with anticipation and uncertainty, but Musa's faith remained unwavering. Upon their arrival in Egypt, Musa and Harun approached Pharaoh's palace. Standing before the ruler who had once been a part of his life, Musa's resolve was tested. He and Harun proclaimed the message of Allah, demanding that Pharaoh release the Israelites from bondage and oppression. Pharaoh, in his arrogance and disbelief, dismissed Musa and Harun, challenging their authority and mocking their claims. He demanded to see the signs Musa had spoken of. In response, Musa cast down his staff, which transformed into a serpent, astonishing the court. Unfazed, Pharaoh summoned his magicians to challenge Musa's miracle. The magicians, skilled in illusion, cast down their staffs, which also appeared as serpents. However, by Allah's power, Musa's serpent swallowed the illusions of the magicians, leaving no doubt about the divine origin of Musa's signs. The magicians, recognizing the truth, fell prostrate and declared their belief in the God of Musa and Harun, much to Pharaoh's fury. Despite this clear sign, Pharaoh remained obstinate, refusing to acknowledge the power of Allah and release the Israelites. His arrogance led him to intensify the oppression of the Israelites, further hardening his heart against Musa's message. In response to Pharaoh's stubbornness, Allah sent a series of plagues upon Egypt, each more severe than the last. The Nile River turned to blood, causing widespread panic and distress. Swarms of frogs infested the land, followed by lice and flies that tormented both people and livestock. A devastating disease struck the cattle, and painful boils afflicted the Egyptians. Hail and locusts ravaged the crops, and a terrifying darkness enveloped the land for days. With each plague, Pharaoh's resolve wavered momentarily, but he continued to harden his heart after relief came. He repeatedly reneged on his promises to free the Israelites, bringing further calamity upon his people. The final and most grievous plague was the death of every firstborn in Egypt, including Pharaoh's own son. This ultimate tragedy finally broke Pharaoh's resistance, and he grudgingly allowed the Israelites to leave. Thus, Musa led the Israelites out of Egypt, embarking on a journey that would take them through the wilderness and towards the Promised Land. This journey, filled with trials and divine guidance, marked the beginning of a new chapter in the lives of the Israelites and the fulfillment of Allah's promise to His people. Musa's call to prophethood was a pivotal moment that set the stage for a series of extraordinary events, demonstrating Allah's power, justice, and mercy. It highlighted Musa's unwavering faith, resilience, and dedication to his mission, despite the immense challenges and dangers he faced. Through divine intervention and guidance, Musa emerged as a beacon of hope and liberation for the Israelites, leading them towards their destiny and establishing a covenant with Allah that would shape their future. The mission to Egypt. With the divine command fresh in his heart, Musa prepared for the monumental task ahead. The journey back to Egypt was laden with both anticipation and trepidation. Musa knew well the power and ruthlessness of Pharaoh, yet he also carried with him the assurance of Allah's support and the miraculous signs bestowed upon him. Upon arriving in Egypt, Musa and his brother Harun sought an audience with Pharaoh. Entering the grand palace, they were met with the opulence and grandeur that Musa had once known intimately. Pharaoh, seated on his throne, exuded an aura of absolute authority and unyielding arrogance. It was within this imposing setting that Musa, with Harun by his side, delivered Allah's message. "Thus says the Lord of the worlds," Musa proclaimed, "let the children of Israel go with us." Pharaoh, taken aback by Musa's boldness, stared at him incredulously. He recognized Musa as the one who had fled years before, and now he stood before him, challenging his authority. Pharaoh's initial reaction was one of disdain and mockery. "Who is this Lord of the worlds that I should obey his command?" Pharaoh retorted. Musa, unwavering, responded, "The Lord of the heavens and the earth and all that is between them, if only you would have sure faith." This declaration set the tone for the ensuing struggle between divine truth and earthly tyranny. Pharaoh, not one to be easily swayed, demanded proof of Musa's divine backing. In response, Musa performed the miracles given to him by Allah. He cast down his staff, which transformed into a living serpent, and then he placed his hand into his cloak, drawing it out to reveal it glowing with a divine radiance. These signs, meant to demonstrate Allah's power, were both wondrous and terrifying to behold. Despite these clear signs, Pharaoh's heart remained hardened. He accused Musa of sorcery and deceit, attempting to undermine the credibility of his message. To counter Musa's miracles, Pharaoh summoned his own magicians, confident that their skills could rival and discredit Musa's divine signs. A grand contest was arranged, where the finest magicians of Egypt gathered to display their craft. On the appointed day, the magicians threw down their staffs and ropes, which through their enchantments appeared as serpents slithering across the ground. The spectacle was impressive, and the onlookers marveled at the display. However, when Musa cast down his staff, it transformed into a serpent that devoured the illusions created by the magicians. This undeniable display of divine power left the magicians in awe. Recognizing the truth, they fell to their knees and proclaimed their belief in the God of Musa and Harun. Pharaoh, witnessing his own magician's conversion, was enraged. His authority and divinity were being directly challenged, and he could not tolerate such defiance. In his fury, he threatened severe punishment against the magicians, but their newfound faith was unwavering. They chose to face Pharaoh's wrath rather than renounce the truth they had witnessed. Undeterred by Pharaoh's obstinacy, Musa and Harun continued their mission. They repeatedly approached Pharaoh, urging him to free the Israelites and warning him of the consequences of his defiance. Each time, Pharaoh responded with increased oppression and cruelty towards the Israelites, hoping to break their spirit and Musa's resolve. As Pharaoh's heart hardened further, Allah's warnings began to manifest as a series of devastating plagues upon Egypt. The Nile, the lifeblood of Egyptian civilization, was turned into blood, rendering the water undrinkable and killing the fish. The land teemed with frogs, swarming into homes and disrupting daily life. Lice and gnats plagued the people, followed by swarms of flies that tormented both man and beast. These plagues brought immense suffering, but Pharaoh's heart remained unmoved. The next wave of calamities struck the livestock, causing widespread death and economic hardship. Painful boils afflicted the Egyptians, followed by a hailstorm of unprecedented severity, destroying crops and property. Locusts descended upon the land, devouring whatever the hail had left behind. Then, a thick darkness enveloped Egypt, a tangible manifestation of the spiritual darkness that Pharaoh's stubbornness had wrought. Each plague was a sign from Allah, urging Pharaoh to heed his command. But each time Pharaoh's momentary repentance was followed by renewed defiance. He repeatedly promised to release the Israelites, only to retract his word once the immediate suffering was alleviated. The culmination of these divine signs came with the most severe of all, the death of every firstborn in Egypt, from the households of commoners to the palace of Pharaoh himself. This final plague struck at the heart of every Egyptian family, bringing unprecedented sorrow and grief. Even Pharaoh's own son was not spared, and this profound loss finally shattered his resistance. In the aftermath of this tragedy, Pharaoh summoned Musa and Harun in the dead of night. His defiance broken, he commanded them to take the Israelites and leave Egypt immediately. The Israelites, who had prepared for this moment as instructed by Allah, gathered their belongings and set out on their journey, guided by Musa and Harun. As they departed, the Israelites felt a mix of relief and apprehension. They had lived their entire lives under the yoke of Egyptian oppression, and now they were venturing into the unknown, trusting in Allah's promise of deliverance. Yet their journey was not to be a simple one, for Pharaoh's change of heart was short-lived. Realizing the full extent of his loss, Pharaoh once again hardened his heart and mustered his chariots and army to pursue the fleeing Israelites. He could not bear to let go of his perceived control and dominance. As the Israelites approached the Red Sea, they found themselves trapped between the water and Pharaoh's advancing forces. Fear and despair gripped them, but Musa reassured them of Allah's support. In a moment of divine intervention, Allah commanded Musa to strike the sea with his staff. The waters parted, creating a dry path for the Israelites to cross. With faith and urgency, they made their way through the miraculous passage. Pharaoh's army, blinded by rage and arrogance, followed them into the path. As the last of the Israelites reached the far shore, Musa struck the sea once more, and the waters returned, engulfing Pharaoh and his army, drowning them in a display of divine retribution. This miraculous event not only delivered the Israelites from their immediate peril, but also served as a powerful testament to Allah's supreme power and justice. The crossing of the Red Sea marked the true beginning of the Israelites' journey to the Promised Land. It was a journey fraught with challenges and trials, but it was also one guided by divine revelation and protection. Musa's leadership, fortified by his unwavering faith and the divine signs he carried, became the cornerstone of the Israelites' hope and resilience. Pharaoh's defeat and the liberation of the Israelites were profound demonstrations of Allah's power and the fulfillment of his promise to deliver his people. It was a victory of faith over tyranny, of divine justice over human arrogance. The mission to Egypt, fraught with danger and resistance, culminated in a resounding affirmation of Allah's supremacy and the ultimate vindication of Musa's prophetic mission. Thus, Musa's mission to Egypt was a defining chapter in the history of the Israelites, one that would shape their identity and destiny. It underscored the themes of faith, perseverance, and the inevitable triumph of divine will over human defiance. This chapter in Musa's life was not just a tale of liberation, but also a profound lesson in the power of faith and the importance of steadfastness in the face of adversity. The Exodus. The night was thick with anticipation as the Israelites prepared for their departure from Egypt. Each family, as instructed by Musa, had sacrificed a lamb and marked their doorposts with its blood, a sign for the angel of death to pass over their homes during the final plague. This night, known as Passover, became etched in the collective memory of the Israelites as a symbol of their deliverance. As dawn approached, the Israelites gathered their belongings, ready to embark on their journey. Pharaoh, reeling from the loss of his firstborn son and the devastation wrought by the plagues, had finally relented and allowed them to leave. The Israelites, numbering in the hundreds of thousands, began their exodus under the leadership of Musa and Harun. They carried with them the hope of freedom and the promise of a land flowing with milk and honey, as foretold by Allah. The journey through the desert was arduous. The Israelites, long accustomed to the relative stability of their lives in Egypt, now faced the uncertainty of the wilderness. Their path was illuminated by a divine pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night, guiding them towards their destination and providing a constant reminder of Allah's presence among them. Despite the initial relief of liberation, the harsh realities of the desert soon began to test the faith and patience of the Israelites. They faced scorching heat, scarce water, and limited food supplies. It wasn't long before murmurs of discontent began to spread through the camp. Some began to question Musa's leadership, recalling the relative comforts of their lives in Egypt, even as slaves. Musa, aware of the growing restlessness, turned to Allah for guidance. In response, Allah provided for their needs in miraculous ways. When the people thirsted, Musa struck a rock with his staff, and water gushed forth, quenching their thirst. When they hungered, Allah sent manna, a sweet, sustaining substance that appeared on the ground each morning, and quails that flew into the camp each evening. These miracles not only met their physical needs, but also served as constant reminders of Allah's provision and care. Despite these provisions, the journey was not without further challenges. As they traveled, the Israelites encountered hostile tribes and difficult terrain. Musa's leadership was continuously tested, and his reliance on Allah became ever more profound. He acted not only as their guide, but also as their mediator with Allah, seeking divine intervention and wisdom at every turn. One of the most significant challenges occurred when the Israelites reached the shores of the Red Sea. With the sea before them and Pharaoh's army rapidly approaching from behind, panic set in among the people. They cried out to Musa, accusing him of leading them to their deaths. In this moment of crisis, Musa remained steadfast in his faith. He reassured the people, urging them to trust in Allah's deliverance. Allah commanded Musa to stretch out his staff over the sea. As he did so, the waters miraculously parted, creating a dry path for the Israelites to cross. The people, filled with awe and trepidation, hurriedly made their way across the seabed. Once they had safely reached the other side, Musa again stretched out his hand, and the waters returned, engulfing Pharaoh's pursuing forces and securing the Israelites' escape. This miraculous event was a defining moment, reinforcing the divine power and protection that accompanied their journey. With the immediate threat of Pharaoh's army eliminated, the Israelites continued their trek through the wilderness. However, the challenges of desert life soon rekindled their doubts and fears. They grumbled about the lack of variety in their diet, the harsh conditions, and the uncertainty of their future. Each complaint was a test of Musa's patience and leadership. One particularly challenging episode occurred at Rephidim, where the people once again found themselves without water. Their complaints grew louder and more desperate. Musa, distressed by their lack of faith, turned to Allah, who instructed him to strike a specific rock with his staff. As Musa obeyed, water poured forth, providing a much-needed reprieve for the people and demonstrating once again Allah's providence. As they journeyed deeper into the wilderness, the Israelites encountered the Amalekites, a fierce and warlike tribe. The ensuing battle tested their resolve and unity. Under Musa's leadership and with divine support, the Israelites were victorious. This victory reinforced their identity as a people under Allah's protection and guidance, capable of overcoming formidable adversaries through faith and collective effort. Throughout their journey, Musa's role as a leader extended beyond physical guidance. He was also a spiritual guide, teaching the people the ways of righteousness and obedience to Allah. His close relationship with Allah was a source of strength and direction, particularly during times of internal strife and external threat. The journey towards Mount Sinai marked a significant phase in their exodus. Upon reaching the base of the mountain, Musa received a divine command to ascend and meet with Allah. He instructed the people to purify themselves and prepare for a sacred encounter. As Musa ascended the mountain, the Israelites witnessed an awe-inspiring display of divine power. Thunder, lightning, and a thick cloud enveloped the peak, signaling Allah's presence. Atop Mount Sinai, Allah revealed to Musa the 10 Commandments, a set of divine laws intended to guide the moral and spiritual conduct of the Israelites. These commandments formed the foundation of the covenant between Allah and His people, establishing a code of ethics and worship that would shape their identity and way of life. Musa descended the mountain with the stone tablets bearing the commandments, only to find the Israelites engaged in idolatry. In his absence, they had constructed a golden calf and begun to worship it, led astray by their impatience and lack of faith. Enraged by this blatant act of disobedience, Musa smashed the tablets and confronted the people, rebuking them for their sin. This incident marked a critical turning point in the Israelites' journey. It highlighted the persistent struggle between faith and doubt, obedience and rebellion. Musa's role as an intercessor became even more pronounced as he pleaded with Allah to forgive the people and renew the covenant. Allah, in His infinite mercy, accepted Musa's plea and instructed him to carve new tablets, reaffirming the commandments and the covenant. The renewal of the covenant was a moment of profound significance, symbolizing the enduring relationship between Allah and the Israelites. It underscored the importance of faith, repentance, and divine forgiveness. The people, chastened by their experience, pledged renewed commitment to the covenant and the laws given by Allah. As the journey continued, the Israelites faced further trials and tribulations. Their path took them through harsh deserts, rocky terrain, and encounters with hostile tribes. Each challenge tested their resilience and faith, requiring them to rely on divine guidance and support. Musa's leadership remained crucial in navigating these difficulties, providing direction and maintaining the unity and morale of the people. One notable episode involved the construction of the tabernacle, a portable sanctuary where the Israelites could worship Allah during their journey. Under divine instruction, Musa oversaw the building of this sacred structure, which housed the Ark of the Covenant and served as a focal point for their spiritual life. The tabernacle symbolized Allah's presence among the people and their commitment to worship and obedience. As the years of wandering in the wilderness stretched on, the Israelites' journey became a process of purification and preparation. The older generation, marked by their slavery in Egypt and their frequent lapses of faith, gradually gave way to a new generation born in the freedom of the wilderness. This new generation, shaped by the experiences of the Exodus and the teachings of Musa, would be the ones to enter the Promised Land. Musa's leadership during this period was characterized by unwavering faith, patience, and dedication. He served not only as a guide and protector, but also as a teacher and intercessor, continually seeking Allah's guidance and advocating for his people. His relationship with Allah remained a cornerstone of his leadership, providing strength and direction amidst the trials and challenges of the journey. As they neared the end of their 40 years of wandering, the Israelites reached the borders of the Promised Land. However, Musa's role as their leader was drawing to a close. Allah informed him that he would not enter the Promised Land himself, due to an earlier act of disobedience. Instead, his task was to prepare the people for their new life under the leadership of his successor, Joshua. Musa's final acts as leader included delivering a series of speeches, known as the Book of Deuteronomy, in which he recounted the history of the Israelites, reminded them of the laws and commandments, and urged them to remain faithful to Allah. These speeches served as both a reflection on their journey and a guide for their future, reinforcing the covenant and the principles that would sustain them in the Promised Land. With his mission complete, Musa ascended Mount Nebo, where Allah showed him the Promised Land from a distance. There, on the threshold of the land he had strived to reach, Musa passed away. Allah himself buried him in an unknown grave, a testament to his unique status among the prophets and his unparalleled dedication to his divine mission. The story of the Exodus, marked by miracles, trials, and divine guidance, stands as a profound testament to the power of faith, perseverance, and divine providence. It underscores the enduring relationship between Allah and his chosen people, shaped by the leadership of Musa and the covenant that would define their identity and destiny. The journey from bondage to freedom, from doubt to faith, remains a cornerstone of the Israelites' history and a powerful narrative of liberation and divine grace. The Covenant at Mount Sinai. The journey of the Israelites from Egypt had been filled with remarkable events, each underscoring Allah's guidance and protection. As they approached Mount Sinai, the sense of anticipation and solemnity grew among the people. Musa had already informed them that this mountain was sacred and that they were about to witness a profound revelation from Allah. Upon reaching the base of Mount Sinai, Musa instructed the Israelites to prepare themselves for the divine encounter. They were to purify themselves, wash their garments, and abstain from certain activities, as these acts of purification were essential for approaching the holy mountain. The camp was filled with an air of reverence and expectation, as the people prepared to witness a manifestation of Allah's power. On the third day, as the people gathered at the foot of the mountain, an awe-inspiring event unfolded. The mountain was engulfed in a dense cloud, accompanied by thunder, lightning, and the sound of a trumpet that grew louder and louder. The entire mountain trembled violently, and a thick smoke enveloped it, signifying the divine presence. The Israelites stood at a distance, filled with fear and awe at the display of Allah's majesty. Musa, following Allah's command, ascended the mountain to meet with him. As he climbed, He was enveloped in the cloud and disappeared from the sight of the people. At the summit, Allah spoke to Musa, establishing a covenant with the Israelites and providing a set of laws that would guide their conduct and define their relationship with Allah. Allah declared, "I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me." This proclamation was the foundation of the covenant, emphasizing the exclusive worship of Allah and the rejection of idolatry. The commandments that followed outlined the principles that would govern the Israelites' spiritual, moral, and social life. The first 4 commandments focused on the relationship between Allah and His people. 1. You shall have no other gods before me. This commandment emphasized the monotheistic nature of the Israelites' faith, forbidding the worship of any deity other than Allah. It was a direct challenge to the polytheistic practices of surrounding cultures and reinforced the centrality of Allah in their lives. You shall not make for yourself an idol. This commandment prohibited the creation and worship of physical representations of gods. The Israelites were to understand that Allah was beyond any physical form and that idol worship was a serious transgression. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God. This commandment stressed the sanctity of Allah's name, prohibiting its misuse or invocation for false oaths. It underscored the need for reverence and respect in all references to Allah. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. This commandment established the Sabbath as a day of rest and worship, reflecting Allah's rest after the creation of the world. It was a time for the Israelites to cease from their labors and dedicate themselves to spiritual reflection and renewal. The remaining 6 commandments address the Israelites' relationships with one another, forming the ethical foundation of their society. 5. Honor your father and your mother. This commandment stressed the importance of family and respect for one's parents, promising longevity in the land as a reward for honoring one's elders. You shall not murder. This commandment prohibited the taking of innocent life, underscoring the sanctity of human life and the need for justice and compassion within the community. You shall not commit adultery. This commandment upheld the sanctity of marriage, forbidding infidelity and promoting fidelity and trust between spouses. You shall not steal. This commandment protected property rights, condemning theft and advocating for honesty and integrity in all dealings. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. This commandment emphasized the importance of truthfulness, prohibiting lies and false accusations that could harm others. You shall not covet. This commandment addressed the inner desires and intentions, warning against envy and the uncontrolled desire for what belongs to others. It encouraged contentment and gratitude for one's own blessings. These commandments, etched in stone, formed the bedrock of the covenant between Allah and the Israelites. They were more than just rules. They were a divine charter outlining the ethical, spiritual, and social principles that would shape the identity and conduct of the Israelites. While Musa was on the mountain, the Israelites waited below. As days turned into weeks, their patience waned, and fear and uncertainty took hold. Some among them, led by a man named Samiri, persuaded the people to create a physical representation of a god to lead them. Using gold jewelry donated by the people, they fashioned a golden calf, an act that directly violated the commandments they had just received. The people began to worship the golden calf, engaging in revelry and idolatry. This blatant act of disobedience occurred at the very moment Musa was receiving the divine laws intended to guide them. Allah informed Musa of the people's transgression, and his anger was kindled against them. Musa, carrying the stone tablets, descended the mountain to find the people in the midst of their idolatrous celebration. Enraged by their actions, Musa smashed the tablets to the ground, symbolizing the shattering of the covenant they had just entered. He confronted the people, particularly Samiri, rebuking them for their grave sin. Musa called for repentance, and those who remained faithful to Allah rallied around him. He ground the golden calf into powder, scattered it into water, and made the people drink it, symbolizing the eradication of their idolatry. Musa then ascended the mountain once more to intercede on behalf of the people, pleading with Allah for forgiveness. In His mercy, Allah instructed Musa to carve 2 new tablets and once again wrote the commandments upon them, renewing the covenant with the Israelites. This act of divine forgiveness emphasized Allah's boundless mercy and willingness to restore His people despite their shortcomings. The renewal of the covenant marked a pivotal moment in the Israelites' journey. It was a profound reminder of the importance of obedience, faith, and repentance. The people, chastened by their experience, reaffirmed their commitment to the commandments and the covenant with Allah. Musa's leadership, characterized by his unwavering faith and mediation, played a crucial role in guiding the people back to the path of righteousness. The construction of the tabernacle, as commanded by Allah, became a focal point for the Israelites' worship and spiritual life. This portable sanctuary, meticulously crafted according to divine specifications, housed the Ark of the Covenant and served as the physical manifestation of Allah's presence among His people. The tabernacle was not just a place of worship. It was a symbol of the renewed covenant and the ongoing relationship between Allah and the Israelites. As the Israelites continued their journey through the wilderness, the commandments and the covenant provided a moral and spiritual framework for their community. The laws encompassed various aspects of daily life, including justice, social welfare, and religious observances. They were intended to shape a society based on principles of justice, compassion, and devotion to Allah. Musa's role as the lawgiver and leader was pivotal in the establishment and maintenance of this covenant community. He not only conveyed the laws, but also interpreted and applied them, ensuring that the people adhered to the divine instructions. His leadership was marked by a deep sense of responsibility and a commitment to upholding the covenant, even in the face of numerous challenges and setbacks. One of the most significant aspects of the covenant at Mount Sinai was its emphasis on the collective identity of the Israelites as Allah's chosen people. The commandments and laws were not merely individual obligations, but communal responsibilities that defined their identity and purpose. They were called to be a holy nation, set apart by their adherence to divine principles and their relationship with Allah. The covenant also underscored the importance of worship and the centrality of Allah in their lives. The establishment of regular religious observances, such as the Sabbath and the annual festivals, provided structured opportunities for the community to come together in worship, reflection, and celebration of their relationship with Allah. These observances reinforced their collective identity and reminded them of their dependence on divine guidance and provision. As the Israelites journeyed towards the Promised Land, the covenant at Mount Sinai remained a cornerstone of their faith and identity. It was a source of guidance, comfort, and hope, particularly during times of trial and uncertainty. The laws and principles enshrined in the covenant provided a moral compass that shaped their interactions with one another and their relationship with Allah. Musa's leadership throughout this period was instrumental in navigating the challenges and complexities of establishing a covenant community. His close relationship with Allah, characterized by direct communication and intercession, enabled him to guide the people with wisdom and compassion. Despite the frequent lapses and rebellions of the Israelites, Musa remained steadfast in his mission, continually seeking divine guidance and advocating for the people. The covenant at Mount Sinai was not merely a historical event, but a defining moment that shaped the destiny of the Israelites. It was a testament to Allah's desire for a relationship with His people, grounded in love, obedience, and mutual commitment. The journey from Egypt to Mount Sinai, marked by miracles and divine interventions, culminated in the establishment of a covenant that would endure for generations, guiding the Israelites towards their divine destiny. This chapter in the life of Musa and the history of the Israelites underscores the profound themes of faith, obedience, repentance, and divine mercy. It highlights the challenges and rewards of living in accordance with divine principles and the enduring power of a covenant relationship with Allah. The story of the covenant at Mount Sinai remains a powerful reminder of the transformative potential of faith and the boundless mercy of Allah. The wandering and trials. The Israelites' journey through the wilderness was marked by a series of trials and tribulations that tested their faith and resilience. Despite the miraculous deliverance from Egypt and the establishment of the covenant at Mount Sinai, the path to the Promised Land was fraught with challenges. These years of wandering were not only a physical journey but also a spiritual and moral testing ground for the Israelites. As they left Mount Sinai, the Israelites faced the daunting reality of the harsh desert environment. The initial excitement of liberation began to wane as they encountered the difficulties of sustaining a large community in such a barren and unforgiving landscape. Food and water were scarce, and the rigors of daily survival took their toll on the people's spirits. One of the first major tests came when the Israelites found themselves without water at a place called Rephidim. The people, consumed by thirst and fear, began to quarrel with Musa, accusing him of bringing them out of Egypt, only to let them die of thirst in the desert. This recurrent theme of doubt and complaint would characterize much of their journey. Musa, distressed by their lack of faith, cried out to Allah for help. In response, Allah instructed him to strike a rock with his staff, and water miraculously gushed forth, providing relief for the people and reaffirming Allah's provision. Despite these miracles, the Israelites' faith was continually tested. Their diet of manna, the miraculous food provided by Allah, became a source of discontent. They longed for the very diet they had in Egypt, forgetting the hardships of their bondage. Their complaints grew louder, and they lamented their situation, yearning for the familiar comforts of their former life. Musa, burdened by the people's incessant grievances, sought Allah's guidance. Allah, in His mercy, sent quails to provide meat for the people, quelling their immediate hunger and dissatisfaction. However, this provision came with a lesson about the dangers of ingratitude and the importance of trust in divine wisdom. The leadership of Musa was continually challenged by internal strife and rebellion. One notable incident involved his own siblings, Harun and Miriam, who questioned his authority and his marriage to a Cushite woman. This familial discord was a severe test for Musa, but Allah intervened, affirming Musa's chosen status and punishing Miriam with leprosy. This episode underscored the importance of unity and respect for divinely appointed leadership. Another significant challenge arose from the report of the 12 spies sent to scout the Promised Land. The spies returned with accounts of a land flowing with milk and honey, but also inhabited by formidable giants and fortified cities. Fear and doubt spread through the camp, leading to a rebellion against Musa's leadership. The people, swayed by the negative reports, expressed a desire to return to Egypt, doubting Allah's promise and power. In response, Allah decreed that the current generation, marked by their lack of faith and persistent rebellion, would not enter the promised land. Instead, they would wander in the wilderness for 40 years until a new generation, untainted by the doubts and disobedience of their forebears, arose. This period of wandering served as both a punishment and a purification, shaping a new generation prepared to fulfill their divine destiny. During these years, the Israelites faced numerous other challenges. They encountered hostile tribes, such as the Amalekites, who attacked them. Each battle was a test of their unity, courage, and reliance on divine assistance. Under Musa's leadership, and with Allah's support, they emerged victorious, reinforcing their identity as a people under divine protection. The daily life of the Israelites in the wilderness was regulated by the laws and commandments received at Mount Sinai. These laws governed various aspects of their communal and religious life, from dietary restrictions and purity codes to festivals and sacrificial rituals. The construction of the tabernacle provided a central place of worship, symbolizing Allah's continual presence among them and serving as a focal point for their spiritual life. Musa's role during this period was multifaceted. He was not only a leader and lawgiver, but also a judge and mediator. He settled disputes, interpreted the laws, and sought Allah's guidance in all matters. His close relationship with Allah was a source of strength and wisdom, enabling him to navigate the complex challenges of leading a large and often contentious community. One of the most profound trials Musa faced was the rebellion of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram, who challenged his authority in the leadership of Harun. They accused Musa of leading the people on a fruitless journey and questioned his legitimacy as a leader. In a dramatic confrontation, Allah vindicated Musa and Harun by causing the earth to open up and swallow the rebels, along with their families and possessions. This event served as a stark reminder of the consequences of defiance against divine authority and the importance of loyalty to Allah's chosen leaders. The constant murmuring and complaints of the people were a source of deep frustration for Musa. At Meribah, when the people once again grumbled about the lack of water, Musa, instructed by Allah, was to speak to a rock to bring forth water. However, in a moment of anger and frustration, he struck the rock twice with his staff. Water flowed, but this act of disobedience cost Musa dearly. Allah decreed that because of this lapse, Musa would not enter the promised land, a poignant reminder of the high standards expected of those chosen by Allah. As the 40 years of wandering drew to a close, the Israelites reached the plains of Moab, near the borders of the Promised Land. Musa, knowing his time was near, prepared the people for the future without his leadership. He delivered a series of speeches, later compiled in the book of Deuteronomy, recounting their journey, reiterating the laws, and urging the people to remain faithful to Allah. Musa appointed Joshua as his successor, entrusting him with the task of leading the Israelites into the Promised Land. He laid hands on Joshua, conferring his authority and blessing, and encouraged the people to support and follow their new leader. This transition of leadership was crucial for maintaining continuity and ensuring that the divine mission would be fulfilled. Before his death, Musa ascended Mount Nebo, where Allah showed him the promised land from a distance. Though he would not enter it himself, he was given the privilege of seeing the land that his people would inherit. There on the mountain, Musa passed away, and Allah himself buried him in an unknown grave, signifying the special relationship Musa had with the divine. The years of wandering and trials in the wilderness were a formative period for the Israelites. They learned lessons of faith, obedience, and reliance on Allah. Despite their frequent lapses and rebellions, Allah's mercy and guidance remained with them, shaping them into a community prepared to fulfill their covenantal destiny. Musa's leadership, marked by profound faith and steadfastness, was instrumental in guiding the people through this challenging period, laying the foundation for their future as a nation under Allah's guidance. The death of Musa. As the years of wandering drew to a close, the Israelites stood on the brink of entering the promised land. They had traversed the harsh desert, facing numerous trials and challenges that tested their faith and resilience. Now they camped in the plains of Moab, on the east side of the Jordan River, preparing to cross into the land that Allah had promised to their forefathers. Musa, their steadfast leader, knew that his time was nearing its end. He had guided the Israelites with unwavering faith and determination, from their miraculous escape from Egypt to their trials in the wilderness. However, he was also aware of the divine decree that he would not enter the promised land due to his disobedience at Meribah. Despite this, Musa's focus remained on preparing the people for their future in the land of Canaan. Gathering the Israelites, Musa delivered a series of poignant speeches, which would later be recorded in the book of Deuteronomy. These addresses were both a reflection on their journey and a guide for their future. He recounted the mighty acts of Allah, reminding the people of the miracles they had witnessed and the covenant they had entered into at Mount Sinai. Musa emphasized the importance of obedience to Allah's commandments, urging the Israelites to remain faithful and to uphold the laws that had been given to them. Musa's speeches were filled with exhortations, warnings, and blessings. He called upon the people to remember their past, to learn from their mistakes, and to adhere to the divine statutes. He reiterated the 10 Commandments and expanded on the laws that would govern their society in the Promised Land. These laws covered various aspects of life, including justice, worship, and social conduct, aimed at creating a just and holy community dedicated to Allah. One of the central themes of Musa's addresses was the call to love and fear Allah, to walk in His ways, and to serve Him with all their heart and soul. He reminded the people that their prosperity in the land depended on their obedience and loyalty to Allah. Musa also spoke of the blessings that would come from following Allah's commandments and the curses that would result from disobedience. These blessings and curses were intended to reinforce the gravity of their covenantal obligations. Musa's role as a leader extended beyond delivering laws and commandments. He acted as a mediator between Allah and the Israelites, interceding on their behalf and seeking forgiveness for their transgressions. His deep connection with Allah was evident in the way he communicated divine instructions and provided guidance during times of crisis. Musa's leadership was marked by a profound sense of responsibility and dedication to his people. As he prepared the Israelites for their entry into the Promised Land, Musa also addressed the future leadership of the community. He appointed Joshua, his faithful aide, as his successor. Joshua had proven his loyalty and courage during their journey, and Musa entrusted him with the task of leading the people into Canaan. In a public ceremony, Musa laid his hands on Joshua, conferring his authority and blessing upon him. This act of succession ensured a smooth transition of leadership and provided the Israelites with a capable and divinely chosen leader. Before his death, Musa composed a song, often referred to as the Song of Moses. This song served as both a reminder and a warning to the Israelites. It recounted the faithfulness of Allah, the ingratitude and rebellion of the people, and the consequences of turning away from divine guidance. The song was intended to be a witness against the Israelites, reminding them of their covenant and the importance of remaining true to Allah's commands. With his final duties fulfilled, Musa ascended Mount Nebo, a peak overlooking the Promised Land. From this vantage point, Allah showed him the land of Canaan, stretching from the lush valleys to the distant hills. Although Musa would not enter the land himself, he was granted the privilege of seeing the fulfillment of the promise made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. On Mount Nebo, Musa reflected on his journey and the incredible experiences that had marked his life. He had witnessed the burning bush, performed miracles before Pharaoh, parted the Red Sea, received the divine commandments, and led a rebellious yet resilient people through the wilderness. His life had been a testament to faith, perseverance, and unwavering commitment to Allah's mission. Musa's death was a moment of profound significance. He was one of the greatest prophets in the history of the Israelites, a leader who had spoken directly with Allah and had been entrusted with the sacred task of delivering his message. Allah, in his infinite mercy and wisdom, chose to bury Musa himself in an unknown grave in the land of Moab. This act underscored the unique relationship between Allah and Musa, and it ensured that Musa's resting place would remain a sacred and protected site. The Israelites mourned the death of Musa for 30 days, recognizing the immense loss of their leader. His leadership had been a guiding light through the darkest times, and his teachings and laws would continue to shape their society for generations to come. The mourning period was a time of reflection and renewal, as the people prepared to move forward under Joshua's leadership. Joshua, now entrusted with the mantle of leadership, faced the daunting task of leading the Israelites into the Promised Land. The challenges ahead were significant, but Joshua was fortified by the knowledge and example left by Musa. He had witnessed Musa's unwavering faith and dedication, and he carried the same commitment to fulfilling Allah's commands. Musa's legacy extended far beyond his lifetime. His teachings and laws became the foundation of Jewish faith and practice, and his story continued to inspire generations. The narrative of Musa's life, marked by divine encounters, miracles, and profound leadership, served as a powerful testament to the transformative power of faith and obedience to Allah. The death of Musa marked the end of an era, but also the beginning of a new chapter for the Israelites. They stood on the threshold of the Promised Land, ready to fulfill the divine promise made to their ancestors. Under Joshua's leadership, they would face new challenges and opportunities, guided by the laws and principles that Musa had imparted to them. Musa's life and legacy remain a central part of the religious and cultural heritage of the Jewish people, and his story is revered in the Islamic tradition as well. His unwavering faith, dedication to his people, and profound connection with Allah continue to serve as an example and inspiration for believers around the world. In the broader context of religious history, Musa's story highlights the importance of divine guidance, the challenges of leadership, and the enduring power of faith. His life is a reminder that even in the face of immense trials and obstacles, steadfast commitment to divine principles can lead to profound transformation and fulfillment of divine promises. Thus, the story of Musa culminates in his death on Mount Nebo, a fitting conclusion to a life dedicated to the service of Allah and the liberation of his people. His journey, marked by extraordinary events and unwavering faith, remains a testament to the enduring relationship between Allah and his chosen people, a relationship founded on covenant, obedience, and divine mercy.